Chess has been around for 1,500 years, but until a couple of summers ago, the ancient game was still mostly a mystery to the folks of rural Franklin County, Mississippi. If you'd ever played chess before, many confused it with checkers. A chessboard was as out of place in the county as a skyscraper. But that all changed when a tall stranger arrived from Memphis to bring chess to the country, with a belief that the game could transform a community. He was initially met with bewilderment. Who was this 6'6" outsider, and why would anyone come to Franklin County to teach chess? Less than 2 years later, a chess boom is underway in the unlikeliest of places. Tucked deep in the southwest corner of Mississippi lies remote Franklin County, where the trains don't stop anymore. Half the county is covered by a national forest. The other half, it seems, by churches. This is the buckle of the Bible Belt. 7,000 people live here, and no one's in a hurry. There are only 2 stoplights in the entire county, and 1 elementary school.
What's this called?
So imagine everyone's surprise when Dr. Jeff Bewlington showed up at school to teach the kids of Franklin County a new subject, chess.
So everybody say, checkmate.
Checkmate.
Before Dr. B came to town, had you played chess before?
I didn't have a clue how to move the pieces or nothing.
Only time I saw was on TV.
Donovan Moore, Braden Farrell, Parker Wilkinson, and Benson Shuxnadre didn't know what to make of Dr. B, as he's known, when he first appeared in 2015.
What did you think of Dr. B when you first met him?
That's 12-foot man.
The 12-foot man.
Whenever he came into the room saying he was planning on teaching us chess, I was like, what? Why would somebody come down here?
In the middle of nowhere. You're a logical guy, and it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
If there are people there, it's not nowhere. This is somewhere. It's just a somewhere that doesn't get a lot of attention.
Jeff Bewlington was lured to Franklin County by a wealthy benefactor who wishes to remain anonymous. The benefactor had seen how Bewlington had molded chess champions in Memphis, in one of the most distressed zip codes in America, and wondered if chess could take hold in the country.
Where can you put the king?
He convinced Bewlington to give a few demonstration lessons in Franklin County.
Does that stop him from coming here? Afterwards, I was asked, so, hey, what do you think? Do you think these kids have it? You know, could you have a chess program here? And yeah, of course, they're as smart as any other kids I've ever met.
Motivated by the challenge, Bewlington signed a 10-year contract with a benefactor and left the city for the country.
What is he doing? He's X-raying the king.
Bewlington has taught chess for the better part of 25 years.
What's so wonderful about the bishop, and why might we think of it as an archer? Like, for instance,
He may not be a grandmaster, but he's a master of using chess to tell a narrative, especially with beginners.
this is a story about a little girl and a stranger and the little girl's daddy. Elizabeth and the Stranger is just my adaptation of Little Red Riding Hood to the chessboard. Elizabeth needs to get down here to E1 where school is, where she'll be safe. It involves just simply teaching how a pawn moves and a king moves. Oh no. Is she gonna make it?
I told you this is a bad idea.
I remember my partner in this project saying to me, we'd have maybe 12 kids playing chess. And he didn't know what to expect.
And how many kids do you have playing chess right now?
Well, a couple hundred. Hey, how are you?
Students flock to Bewlington in part because at heart, he's one of them. He grew up in rural Indiana and identifies with kids who have to feed the chickens, count tarantulas as pets, and have different tastes in food.
What do you like to eat?
Fried rattlesnake.
Fried
Go
rattlesnake?
to my house. If we ever find a rattlesnake in a course of like a week or so, you're getting some fried rattlesnake.
Bewlington's opened up a new world to his kids.
This is a famous game by Morphy against Count Isouard and Duke of Brunswick. This was played in Paris. This is Paris.
We teach history, we teach geography, we teach science, we teach math, we teach it all using the chessboard.
Bobby Poole is a part-time preacher and a full-time assistant chess coach for Bewlington. Poole says there were doubts that Bewlington could succeed in Mississippi.
All the statistics, everything you look at, Mississippi is the poorest, it's the dumbest, it's the fattest. We know that the rest of the nation has that conception of us.
People said that country kids couldn't learn chess.
And?
He showed them different.
We proved them wrong.
Proof came last spring in Starkville, where Bewlington's team of mostly elementary school kids from Franklin County faced off against much older high school players at the Mississippi State Championships. Rebecca Griffin was in the 5th grade.
What was their reaction when they saw you, a little 5th grader, sitting across the table from them?
One of them started bragging to their friends about how he got easy pickings.
Is that a little scary, playing somebody who looked that much older than you?
I didn't really think about it until somebody told me, "You played a guy with a beard?"
You guys roll in and they say, who are these kids, right?
They were basically like trying to say we were a joke because we were kids. But after the game, we usually beat them, and they were like very shocked.
Don't you guys feel bad you beat all those older kids?
No,
I never
not
feel
at all.
bad.
I don't want that to make me seem like a cruel person, but I really am just okay with crushing people's spirits.
In the end, Franklin County dominated the state championships.
What happened is a bunch of hillbillies beat the snot out of a bunch of really highly educated, sophisticated people. So that's what happened.
Mitch Ham was among the many parents in Starkville. He thinks the victory served as a milestone for Franklin County's kids.
And that was very sobering for them to suddenly realize, wow, we are good. So them having the realization of their own potential was a beautiful moment.
How did the other teachers react?
Over the course of my career in teaching chess, people say things like, I did not know that he could do something like that, or even something as simple and as crass as I did not know he was smart or she was smart or something like that.
What does that tell you?
It tells me some people got it wrong, that some kids have been underestimated or written off for reasons that are false.
Chess has helped Bewlington's players see there's more to themselves than they've seen before.
Chess is like something that I'm really good at for once.
Has it changed you at all?
It has. My grades have went up.
Your grades have gone up.
All my grades used to be like low, medium, low B's. Now they're A's and high B's. I feel like chess could take us anywhere, but it's not about where it takes us, it's about how far it takes us.
Last year, only 7 of the 93 graduates from Franklin County High School went on to a 4-year college. But every chess player we spoke to plans to attend college someday.
It's really shocked me how far he's came.
Jennifer Rutland is Braden's mom. She runs the First and Main Cafe, one of the few places in the county that serves a hot meal. She believes her son won't be flipping burgers for a living.
Is it fun to see your kids dream a little bigger than the county line?
Yes. So big that it's almost like, Braden, come on, get real.
Yeah.
It just gets so big.
You always want to see your kids go further. And I think chess can be a vehicle to take them there. This gives them a window at a young age that, hey, there's a whole world out there. I don't need to set my goals at making $8 an hour. I need to set my goals at whatever I want them to be.
Chess has filled a social void and given Main Street a pulse. In October, a new chess center opened in the middle of Meadville, the county seat.
Do you feel like chess has made the community more hopeful?
Certainly parts of it, yeah. Right, I mean, this flower hasn't bloomed yet. It's just starting to, right? There's a lot yet to come.
The chess center has become like a beacon in the county. Each day after school, kids who have the desire and aptitude receive more instruction from Bewlington.
So what does black do?
They've become so immersed in the game with its infinite number of possible moves that when these students finish playing chess, they go home and play more chess.
Can the best chess player in the world come from Franklin County?
Maybe.
Absolutely.
It's super possible.
Before they could take on the world, they would have to face the nation.
But we'll take care of them.
The week before Christmas, 33 of Franklin County's chess wonders and their parents
gathered in the school parking lot.
Y'all are coming back, right?
To begin a 10-hour journey to Nashville for their biggest test yet, the National Championships. As day
Queen G7, excellent.
turned into night, Bewlington and his students were lost in what they call the chess dimension.
Where are we?
Well, I don't know where we are. We're just in the middle of it. We're in the middle of problem number 9. That's all I know.
Preparing in their own language
Knight D4, attacking the queen and threatening. Queen takes H3, check.
for what lay ahead, a weekend of intense chess. More than 1,500 players from 644 schools gathered in a giant ballroom at Opryland.
Please shake your opponent's hand.
For 7 rounds of chess over 3 days. Every grade, K through 12, was vying for a national title. The best teams come from the best schools in New York City. And 2 hours into the tournament, it appeared as if little Franklin County was overmatched. After round 1, the kids from Mississippi had lost 30 of their first 32 games.
You know, it's a real struggle, and they're going to learn to struggle at this level, and they're learning that they have to struggle at a different level than they ever have before.
What's the feeling when you walk in here as a player, as a coach, as a parent?
It's a deep, agonistic experience, right?
Deep agonistic experience.
Yeah, it's real, true competition based on skill alone, right? You look around and you can see it in the parents' faces as much as the kids, that there's something significant at stake here.
Nervous parents from other programs tried to sneak a closer peek into the ballroom, desperate for any news. After their shaky start, Franklin County's players bore down, taking more time, probing for openings, watching for threats. A Bewlington mantra played in their heads: let your opponent show you how they'd like to lose.
Today's the last day, it's the hardest day, and it's...
By Sunday, with the final 2 rounds looming, Franklin County's 5th and 6th graders were hovering near the top 10.
Everybody needs to fight for those points today. We need them very much.
Parker Wilkinson, Braden Farrell, and Benson Shuxnadre all delivered for Franklin County. That left Donovan Moore, who was mired in a 2.5-hour struggle against a higher-rated opponent from Kentucky. On the verge of victory, Donovan was asked for a draw. He said no. His opponent snapped. The tension of the event bursting to the surface. Donovan Moore eventually won, boosting Franklin County's 5th graders to number 8 in the country.
Making their debut to the stage, Franklin County Upper Elementary.
The 6th graders placed 10th, 2 grades in the nation's top 10, only a year and a half after Jeff Bewlington first showed up to introduce chess to a small county in Mississippi.
One thing that I don't think I say enough is thank you.
I was thinking the same
for
thing.
teaching us all this.
What are they capable of?
Somewhere in the top 3, at least.
You think you can stick it out for 8 more years from Franklin County?
I won't even think of it as sticking it out.
What do you think of it as?
I think of it as doing what I want to do, being in a place I like to be.
With a grueling pandemic and gruesome political season, you'd be forgiven for giving up on the idea of miracles. But tonight, we will take you to a place that's known for them. The sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes in southern France is the site of 70 medical miracles recognized by the Catholic Church. The Marian Shrine is famous to the faithful, but less well known is the Lourdes Office of Medical Observations. That's where world-renowned doctors and researchers conduct decade-long investigations into the countless claims of cures reported over the years. They determine which cases can be medically explained and which cannot. It's those church officials might call a miracle. For the doctors, it's a lesson in the limits of medicine. For the devout, it's divine intervention. The small French town of Lourdes, tucked in the foothills of the Pyrenees Mountains, draws more than 3 million pilgrims every year, more than travel to Mecca or Jerusalem. And almost everyone you meet will tell you they've heard stories of miracles here. but we heard none more inspiring than that of Sister Bernadette Moreau.
I really tried everything I could, but this is something that cannot be healed.
What was your prognosis?
Full, total paralysis. The prognosis was really dark.
Strolling with 83-year-old Sister Moreau through the chapel grounds in Brel, France, we found it hard to believe that for half her life she suffered from cauda equina, a disorder of the nerves and lower spine.
You wore this all the time?
Her left foot, she said, was twisted and limp. To walk at all, she needed this back and leg brace, an implant to dull nerve pain, and massive doses of morphine. She told us she had exhausted all treatment options, so in 2008, her doctor convinced her to make a pilgrimage to Lourdes.
Did you believe in miracles at the time?
I always believed in miracles, but not for me.
So why did you decide to go?
Well, I didn't go there for a miracle. I just went there to pray with others. Lourdes is a place where the smallest people, or the sickest, or the poorest, they come first.
The sickest, the poorest, the diseased and debilitated, bearing wounds visible and hidden, come from all over the world, seeking to be healed by the shrine's natural spring waters and the power of prayer.
And so I've asked for complete healing or a super long remission.
This was Kim Halpin's first pilgrimage. She found out last year she has incurable blood cancer and came all the way from Kansas to cleanse herself in the waters of Lourdes.
Are you expecting to be healed?
Not necessarily. Ask for as much as I want, and maybe I will be blessed with part of it, which will be okay.
Halpin was aided by her son Sean. We couldn't help but notice there are as many volunteers as sick here. The Our Lady of Lourdes Hospitality North American volunteers helped Jamie Jensen travel from Minnesota for his 18th visit.
Even though the camera sees that I have a condition and a chair, when I'm here, I don't have a condition.
Jensen's condition is cerebral palsy. All those trips to Lourdes haven't given him the physical miracle he wanted, but maybe, he says, he got the miracle he needed.
I was very bitter, very angry with myself.
Did coming to Lourdes change your heart?
Very much.
Do you consider that a miracle?
I do, because there's a peace within myself.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray.
Stories of inner peace and acceptance don't meet the bar for the Office of Medical Observations, and with just 70 medical miracles recognized in 160 years, you'd have better odds playing the lotto. Yet thousands of faithful line up at the baths and at this grotto where the first miracle is said to have occurred. The sanctuary, with its 3 basilicas and 25 chapels, is laid out like a grand theater complex, its many stages offering dozens of pious performances throughout the day. The finale, a candle-lit procession every night. There would be none of this were it not for Saint Bernadette. According to Catholic lore, in 1858, a mysterious woman appeared in this grotto to Bernadette Soubirous, a 14-year-old peasant girl. Jean-Marc Mica, the Bishop of Lourdes, says the woman spoke with Soubirous several times over 5 months.
And once, the 25th of March, day of the Annunciation, she said, "I am the Immaculate Conception."
When word got out the Immaculate Conception, the Virgin Mary, had appeared in Lourdes, people flocked to this grotto and within days started making claims of miracle cures, the ability to walk, restored sight. Worried about fueling mass hysteria, the church set up the Office of Medical Observations in 1883 to investigate the claims. Which brings us back to the other Bernadette in our story. 14 years ago, Sister Moreau found herself in a wheelchair in a procession at Lourdes seeking the intervention of Saint Bernadette.
And I really had that feeling that the Lord was walking with us. And I heard him giving me these words, I see your suffering and that of your sick brothers and sisters. Just give me everything.
You heard the voice of Jesus.
Yes, I heard this in a voice. I can't really tell you whose voice it was. It was like a spiritual experience.
She said she returned home rejuvenated spiritually, but physically she felt worse. After 3 days in excruciating pain, she told us she suddenly found the strength to walk to the chapel and pray.
Then I felt some kind of heat coming into my body. I felt relaxed, but I didn't really know what that was meaning. And in my room, I heard this inner voice again telling me, take all your braces off. I didn't think twice, and I started taking my foot brace off. And my foot, that used to be crooked, was straight, and I could actually put it on the ground without feeling any pain.
All of a sudden, your foot was straight.
Yes, like that, like the way it is just now. And so I kept going.
She says she took off the braces and stopped the morphine all at once.
Did this make sense to you?
No, I knew it was impossible.
She came to my door with her doctor, and she said, last year I came to Lourdes on pilgrimage, and 3 days after I got back home, I was cured.
Dr. Alessandro De Franciscis hears stories like that all the time. As the president and residing physician at the Lourdes Office of Medical Observations, the former pediatrician's job is to determine whether there is more to those stories by applying 7 strict criteria established by the Church.
And we're looking for a diagnosis. And if that diagnosis is a diagnosis of a severe disease with a severe prognosis, and then we want to make sure that that person is a person that was cured in a way that one would say suddenly, in an instantaneous way, in a complete way, and in a way lasting in time. And my 7th criteria that has to match is there must be no possible explanation to that cure. Sister Bernadette Moreau.
Here on the end.
He showed us the archives, which hold thousands of recorded claims of cures.
This feels like it's almost 10 pounds.
10 pounds, I think.
Dr. De Franciscis, a practicing Catholic, told us what separates the more than 7,000 claims of cures from the 70 the Church calls miracles is an ungodly amount of medical documentation and patients like Sister Moreau willing to put their lives under a microscope.
We sent her to 2 different neurologists. We sent her to different rheumatologists because of the different specific case of her disease. We asked to repeat twice all sorts of imagery, electrophysiology. We did all that we would do in medicine to be absolutely sure of her diagnosis, and it was.
But he wanted to confirm something else.
I was asked to meet with 2 psychiatrists in Paris. They wanted to know if I was lying, if I had already had any hallucinations, if I had levitated. I remember answering, "No, doctor, I never left the ground floor."
Satisfied, Dr. De Franciscis sent Sister Moreau's case to a group of 33 doctors and professors called the International Medical Committee of Lourdes. Its job is to determine whether a cure is what they consider medically unexplained.
We're not trying to rule something in or rule something out, we're just trying to be objective.
You could call them the devil's advocates. Dr. Michael Moran, a surgical oncologist, Dr. Jacek Mostwin, a professor of urology at Johns Hopkins, and Dr. Kieran Moriarty, a renowned addiction specialist, scrutinized Sister Moreau's case.
Is there anything that could have caused her response?
No treatment would be that effective that quickly.
Does religion enter into your medical conversation?
We cannot separate ourselves as people who have been deeply immersed in the culture and the traditions of Lourdes and the Church. But make no mistake, we're just as technical as a forensic pathologist when it comes to looking at the technical details of the case.
After 8 years of investigation, the committee determined that Sister Moreau's case was medically unexplained.
So when you do a survey, the investigation of Sister Bernadette's or any of the other cures, this is done on a purely medical basis, something that could be peer-reviewed by other physicians outside.
Not could, that is.
They are
I
peer-reviewed.
have estimated, I can affirm with absolute certainty that the case of Sister Bernadette had been reviewed, read, expertised by at least 300 physicians. 300 physicians. And if tomorrow morning any of our viewers is a doctor, and one day he stops in southern France and comes to see me and wants to look into the file of Sister Bernadette, I'll be delighted to show him, because we have, everything is open and collegial and no secrets.
The secret is the mystery of it all, and on that, the Church gets the last word.
Amen.
In 2018, a decade after her cure, Sister Moreau's case was declared the 70th miracle of Lourdes.
Declaring a miracle is saying God did something. This is the miracle. And the doctors cannot go on that land, on that field.
When I told people I was coming here, I got a lot of people who told me, oh, come on, there's got to be some explanation that we just don't know. What do you say to the skeptics?
Come and see. Be open. Don't be narrow-minded. Be open to believe that the real world is wider than the visible one.
It's been said about Lourdes, for those who believe no explanation is necessary. For those who do not, no explanation is possible.
Last August, President Biden signed a sweeping climate bill into law, making wind power a priority, specifically offshore wind power. The goal is to capture the force of the wind in the open seas and convert it into power for 10 million American homes by 2030. We have a long way to go. There are only 7 offshore wind turbines off the coast of the United States, compared to nearly 6,000 in Europe. Critics say they're expensive to build and maintain, unpredictable, and ugly. We wanted to see for ourselves. Last October, we reported from the largest offshore wind farm in the world along the northeast coast of England and discovered the Power of Grimsby. As you fly 200 miles north of London, along the coast, you can see the town of Grimsby below. 55 miles east of her port,
morning, we are on our way to the Hornsey Wind Park, film crew on board.
You can't miss them. Elegant and a little eerie, white giants poking out of the North Sea like something out of a science fiction novel.
Inbound to the Hornsey Wind Park with 6 PLD.
This is the largest crop of offshore wind turbines in the world, known as the Hornsey Wind Farm. It is hypnotizing. More than 300 turbines spread across 335 square miles generate enough electricity to help power more than 2 million homes a day.
Beautiful day. Yeah, beautiful day.
To understand the power, size, and upkeep of this evolving technology, we geared up on land and traveled 90 minutes on the heaving North Sea with 24-year-old Bridie Salmon. Her job is to scale and service the turbines. My job, with the help of a little anti-nausea gum, was to simply hold down my lunch.
This is choppy out here.
Yeah, it is. How are you feeling?
I feel okay. It's more important, how do you feel?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Like I say, I'd like to think I've got my sea legs on.
Yeah.
So,
When your last name is Salmon, negotiating rough waters is sort of in your DNA. Bridie's great-grandfather worked on the Grimsby docks. Her dad owns this 100-year-old smoked fish shop in town. Bridie was bartending when she decided to apply to an apprentice program to be a turbine technician. She was one of 7 people selected from a pool of 500.
Shall we have a look around here then, guys?
The apprentice program combines classroom instruction
A big drill bit on the bottom, and it's spinning.
with hands-on work at sea. But we soon learned that Mother Nature is a temperamental teacher.
The weather here is ever changing.
Yeah, we're holding on for our dear lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the North Sea. It's not something we can control. So every day is different, and it can change like that. So it's just part and parcel of the job. Anything to get these things turning. This is the environment for wind turbines. It's got to be windy.
As we approached the turbines, we suddenly felt small.
You don't get a sense of how large things are until you're right up under this.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, so at the very top, the nacelle, all the way to the top of the blades is half the size of the Eiffel Tower, which is pretty massive. And because you've got nothing normal to compare it to, like a building, you just see these in the distance, and then you're here, and they're pretty bloody huge.
Translation, they're nearly 600 feet high with spinning fiberglass blades, roughly the length of the world's largest passenger jet. Each blade weighs almost 30 tons. The turbines are partially assembled on shore, then shipped out to sea, where each blade is attached with surgical precision to the top of the turbine. Every angle has to be perfect to generate maximum power. Once installed, keeping them spinning is critical. Offshore wind engineers say one revolution can power one home in the UK for 24 hours. And that's where Bridie comes in.
It's raining.
Yeah.
It's windy.
Yeah, can't wait. Just another day in the office.
All right.
In choppy waters, Captain Peter Broughton has to find the sweet spot, maintaining constant contact between the bow and base.
Traffic seemed alliance.
Some days the winds are so high and seas so rough, the job can't be done. On this day, success.
Right, I'll see you later.
Okay,
Bye.
be careful.
Bridie harnesses herself to a cable,
Happy?
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
leaps to a ladder, and begins the climb rung by rung, 8 stories to the top.
Seawind Alliance, V1, radio check.
On a narrow platform hanging over the North Sea, she makes her rounds,
The lights are working.
carefully inspecting and servicing the turbine. A job not for the faint of heart.
I'm gonna pop this in here.
What was that like the first time you made that climb?
Oh, exhausting. Exhausting. Yeah, it was because you've got all your safety kit on as well. So you've probably got about 10 kilograms of harnesses and claws, and you've got to be clipped in. So you've got that friction of climbing.
I would imagine it would be kind of scary.
Yeah, really scary. I remember there was one day, it was super windy. So we were up there and the top of the tower is moving. So you've got the seasickness, the motion sickness from the sea, and then the top of the tower is moving. So all day you're rocking. And it was cold and windy. And I remember coming back on shore, I was just rocking. I was like, I'm on land now, I don't need to rock, but it's pretty scary.
Benj Sykes says those kinds of extraordinary efforts are needed in extraordinary times. Sykes is the vice president of offshore wind at Ørsted, a Danish-based global energy supplier that runs the Hornsea wind farm.
You know, we have a cost of energy crisis in Europe and in Britain at the moment. That's driven by the pandemic, but also, of course, by the terrible situation in Ukraine. And all of that adds up to a real drive to find clean, cheap energy solutions.
About 6 years ago, Ørsted decided to sell off its oil and gas business and focus on renewable energies. Grimsby, a depressed fishing town, became the unlikely backdrop to Europe's clean energy movement.
Why here? Why Grimsby?
It's got a good port. And it's geographically really well located, physically, in terms of the water depth, in terms of the wind resource, and of course, places to connect to the national grid so that we can get that power to homes and businesses.
Long before Russia's invasion of Ukraine set off the energy crisis, the UK had a strategy to use 100% clean or renewable electricity by 2035.
When you talk about clean energy, you talk about solar, hydropower, biofuels. What makes offshore wind unique?
Offshore wind is really the only project in most countries where you can build it at the kind of power station scale that we need. If I think about the projects we're building here in the UK, that's almost 3 gigawatts, and that's broadly speaking, the output of a nuclear power station. So we're talking large-scale infrastructure projects. Most of Europe is too populated to fit very, very large wind farms or solar farms. So that's why we've gone offshore.
One big criticism is costs. They're expensive to construct, to transmit, and to decommission. Is that cost passed on to consumers?
So that's simply wrong. Offshore wind power is one of the cheapest forms of electricity generation in the UK. We privately fund it together with investment partners that we bring in.
Privately, you fund that?
Yeah, there's no public exposure to the costs of building offshore wind. And I think the thing that's made the most difference is the fact that we've had political consensus now for more than a decade, and that's given investors confidence to step in and put the big money on the table to get these projects away.
Gas and nuclear still make up a majority of the power supply flowing into UK homes and businesses. But this year, 14% of Britain's energy has come from offshore wind. Only China produces more offshore wind power than the UK. Here's how it works. Wind turns the blades around a shaft inside the turbine, which spins a generator. Energy then travels down, going 300 feet beneath the water surface to cables buried under the seabed, connecting to an offshore substation, then to a power station on land, where that electricity created out at sea is transferred into homes and businesses, inviting the question, what happens if the wind stops blowing?
Using satellites and other technology, we can predict extremely accurately how much we're going to generate over the next days, which enables those who operate the grid to make very clear plans about where's demand going, where's supply going. I mean, if I look at the turbines that we've got out in Hornsey, they're operating 98, 99% of the time.
This is Grimsby's second act. Through the 1950s to 1970, the town hosted the largest fishing fleet in the world, with 700 trawlers, awash in cash, and a port fit for a visit from the Queen.
Oh, it was absolutely brilliant. The camaraderie, because you can say nearly 100% of the population would be associated with the fishing industry in some way.
Dennis Avery and Bob Formby were part of the town's fishing tradition.
What was it like?
No, it's a tough job. It's work from sailing till you get back in the port again. Working in the winter around Iceland and them places was pretty severe. But it's the kind of job that I would do again tomorrow.
In those days, you had two choices. You worked on the docks or you went to sea. Decker navigator.
Avery captained this hulking steel fishing trawler, the Ross Tiger, for 8 years.
If you caught a good trip and you're steaming home back to Grimsby with a fish room full of fish, you know, it's a marvellous feeling.
That marvelous feeling ended when Iceland, Britain's neighbor to the north, began enforcing fishing restrictions in their cod-rich waters.
Fish to Grimsby may shrink to a trickle.
What did you see happen in town when that happened?
Gosh, it was a disaster, to be quite honest, because everybody was involved some way in fishing. Like taxi drivers, the pubs, the dress shops and places like that. They all suffered.
You know, once the fishing sort of went, it all sort of died a death.
Wind power has breathed new life into Grimsby. Offshore energy company Ørsted says it's created 600 jobs here and invested over $18 billion in local wind farms. But there are plenty of people who worry the environmental impact of the wind turbines hasn't been sufficiently studied. And others say the industry has not created the number of jobs they've promised. But the concern of these retired fishermen is more practical.
We're not seeing benefits.
Your electricity bill hasn't gone down?
No, it's gone up, if anything. When they said about them, how we're going to get cheap electricity and it's going to be, you know, green and everything, but I can't see any benefits, to be quite honest.
But has your electricity bill gone down?
Try double. It's doubled.
There are people who said, yeah, we've got all these turbines, but our electricity bill hasn't gone down a cent.
Yeah, I mean, it is a real challenge that. It's going to take time because we need to build more offshore wind.
So you think if there's more offshore wind, prices could go down?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fearing the war in Ukraine could lead to blackouts last winter, the UK government announced more drilling for oil and gas in the North Sea. They will also speed up the time it takes for new offshore wind projects to get online. Ben Sykes told us that over the next 8 years, Ørsted plans to invest another $17 billion in wind farms and add more than 300 jobs in Grimsby.
You know, the fishing industry was fantastic for Grimsby. That era has passed. What we want to do is to be part of creating the next chapter of Grimsby's life and of the country's life as we build out.
A chapter Bridie Salmon is very much a part of.
So that's gone from Grimsby being the fishing town to the powerhouse of the north, which was an amazing transition.
Proud of it?
So proud of it. And to be a part of it, it's amazing.
A town's future and fortune once again tied to the sea.
It's safe to say that wolves have an image problem. Since ancient times, they've been portrayed in fables and legends and the Bible as fearsome, voracious predators. The story of the big bad wolf may be the most memorable and frightening of all the fairy tales told by the Brothers Grimm. That grim reputation actually produced a very real result in America in the early 20th century. Wolves were wiped off the landscape, trapped, poisoned, and hunted until there was not a single one left in the American West. The National Park Service brought wolves back to Yellowstone Park almost exactly 25 years ago, following a bitter debate between wildlife groups who wanted them restored and ranchers who most definitely didn't. Even today, the wolves of Yellowstone stir strong emotions. But as we first reported in 2018, they've also had an impact that almost no one saw coming. In the dead of winter, Yellowstone Park is a beautiful but forbidding place. Howling wind, sub-zero temperatures, 6 feet of snow. Just finding enough food to survive is a profound struggle for every animal. Waterfowl, bison, elk, foxes. They all have to work for every morsel. Yellowstone was the world's first national park, founded in 1872, and it remains one of the most visited. Millions of people come here every summer, but they used to pretty much leave it to the wildlife in the winter, until the wolves came back.
Oh, they're behind the tree.
Now, reports of a wolf sighting can produce a traffic jam along the 150-mile stretch of road the Park Service keeps open in the winter.
Oh, we got a wolf bus moving.
Visitors with spotting scopes gather in absolutely frigid weather for a momentary, long-distance view.
Bill, these folks came from Germany to see wolves. How about that?
Doug Smith runs the Yellowstone Wolf Research Program for the Park Service.
And no one predicted this would happen. Actually, you know,
the appeal of coming in to see the wolves?
Yes, and it truly has been amazing, and hundreds of thousands of people a year, we estimate, come here just to see wolves.
Wolf tourism pumps $35 million a year into the local economy, much of it spent in the winter, which is prime wolf watching time.
We've seen wolves all 3 days that we've been out.
Glenn Mai is a retired FBI agent from Arlington, Virginia. Kathy Lombard is a retired cop from New Hampshire. They both paid an outfitter thousands of dollars to take them wolf watching. So what is it about wolves that bring you all the way out here from New Hampshire to sit out here and just hope for the chance to see them?
They've been able to bring wolves back into Yellowstone, and they've thrived. So that's just an awesome thing to see.
It was January 12, 1995, when the first gray wolves captured in Canada were carried into Yellowstone Park. It drew both national attention and fierce opposition. So much that armed guards were posted to protect those wolves. So the first wolves released into Yellowstone Park were released right back here in this thicket?
Yes, so a total of 41 over 3 years.
How many are in the park now?
We've got 96 in 10 packs, and it's been roughly 100 wolves the last 10 years. Very stable.
Those 10 packs of about 10 wolves each are without a doubt the most closely observed and studied wolves on Earth.
Our goal is to keep touch with each pack. That's our goal.
They do that by trying to attach radio collars to at least 2 wolves in each of the park's packs.
So you fly out in the airplane, find wolves in the open. That airplane radios a waiting helicopter on the ground. That helicopter flies out with a gunner in the back seat.
That gunner is almost always Smith himself.
Loaded. Okay. And you fly up alongside that wolf, and you shoot a tranquilizing dart into it.
Doug's in.
5 minutes, it goes down. We process the wolves. We take blood. We measure them. We look at their health, and we attach a radio collar. And then we follow them for their life, hopefully.
That life, by the way, typically lasts about 5 years. Yellowstone wolves are fierce and territorial. The leading cause of death is attacks from other wolves.
And their look is uncontrollable. That look says, I ain't gonna conform to your rules, and I'll die before I do. And that's powerful. That is a location of a wolf.
Data from the radio collars has helped Smith's team to learn volumes about wolf behavior.
If you see where the boulder is by itself.
Yeah. It also helps all those wolf watchers find them. Park Service volunteer Rick McIntyre is out every day listening for signals.
So that is from a black male wolf, 1107.
And then spreading the word.
Would you like to see a gray wolf?
I would love to.
Okay, there you go. So it's a little bit right of center.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look, here comes the whole pack. Wow.
So see if you can count them all. There would be 2 grays and 6 blacks.
4, 5, 6 black ones and the white one that went by.
And there should be a second gray.
How about that?
We had spotted the Junction Butte pack along a ridgeline about 2 miles away. Like most packs, it's led by an alpha male and an alpha female, the only 2 wolves in a pack who mate with each other.
The gray alpha female is still leading to the right.
Oh, yeah.
And you see how the ones behind her are playing. She's determined to lead them to the west. They're running along the top.
Oh, right along the ridge.
Yeah.
That's magnificent.
We can see these wolves from the ground, and it's been a sensation. So we've learned a lot about pack dynamics and personalities and how social they are.
What do you mean? Describe that for me.
They want to be together. They're a pack animal. So the power of the wolf is the pack.
Nowhere is that power more evident than when a wolf pack is on the hunt for elk, its favorite prey. They work together because they have to.
Your average wolf weighs 100 pounds or so, but your average prey animal is much bigger. A bull elk's 750 pounds. A cow elk's 500. So how's a roughly 100 to 120 pound animal going to take that down?
They do it, Doug Smith says, both by coordinating their attack and by zeroing in on vulnerable prey.
They're going to take the weak. So they're making their living off of calf elk, old elk, injured elk.
Without wolves, there was an overpopulation of elk in Yellowstone. As wolves have cut the size of those herds, there's been an unexpected side effect. Plants that elk feed on have made a comeback, which has in turn produced benefits for other species.
All the little trees have come back since wolf recovery. This gully filled with shrubs has all come back since wolf recovery.
And the wolves are a factor in all of that.
Very simply put, wolves eat elk eat this. When the elk get reduced, they eat less, so beavers and songbirds can respond to the growth in that vegetation.
Doug Smith is quick to say that it's not as simple as he just made it sound. But that hasn't stopped some environmentalists from declaring wolves the saviors of Yellowstone's ecology.
There's some people who will try to convince you that wolves could probably solve Mideast peace and world hunger.
Randy Newberg is a Montana hunter who hosts a TV show and podcast for hunters. He remembers how emotional the debate over reintroduction was between wolf haters and wolf lovers.
Wolves are wolves. They aren't the big bad wolf, and they don't have a rainbow shooting out their ass like everyone would think they do.
There's something romantic about a wolf, right? Unless you've seen it chewing on a live cow.
Eric Costa's family has been raising cattle and sheep on this Montana ranch for 100 years. He says he was worried from the moment the first wolves were brought back to Yellowstone, which is about 100 miles to the south.
You know, they weren't going to stay in the park. They're a wild animal. They'd go where they want to go.
I'm sure you knew it was only a matter of time before they were going to get here.
Oh, yes. There was no doubt. And there was a set of tracks, very large.
Eric Costa knew that wolves would follow migrating elk out of Yellowstone and onto his ranch, and that they'd attack his livestock if given the chance. He started hiring range riders to watch over his cattle, and he bought guard dogs to help keep wolves away from his sheep.
Live sheep pay for things, live cattle pay for things, and dead ones don't.
His defensive measures have kept wolves away from his livestock, but neighboring ranchers have lost both cattle and sheep to wolves.
The thing that's never monitored when I talk to these people is the lost nights of sleep, the nervousness. I saw a wolf track on my place today, or I actually saw a wolf. Wolves are around. You can't measure or compensate for that.
Are wolf attacks on livestock a serious problem?
No, it's rare that it happens, but if it's happening to you, it's a serious problem.
It was that fear of wolf attacks that drove ranchers and settlers to eradicate them in the early 20th century. After the Endangered Species Act was passed in 1973, wolves were among the first to be listed, and a campaign began to restore them to Yellowstone Park. After that happened in the 90s, wolves quickly spread out of Yellowstone and into neighboring states. So many that there are now nearly 2,000 in Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho. After a long and bitter legal battle, those states finally won the authority to manage and sometimes kill wolves outside the national park.
Has this management of the wolves helped to lessen some of those passions, to calm some of those emotions?
I think so.
So to have wolves, you have to kill the wolves.
In some situations, yes.
The first situation is cut and dried. Any wolves that attack livestock are immediately killed themselves.
I think that's helped a lot, at least with the ranching community. People feel better if they're not powerless to deal with something.
And then wolves are hunted. There's a hunting season on wolves. All 3 states have them. So having wolves be hunted has probably increased people's willingness to share the landscape with them.
Looks like there's at least 2 of them.
Randy Newberg is living proof of that. He filmed a wolf hunt a few years ago for his TV show. It took him 11 days and 100 miles of trudging and tracking through the snow.
You went out looking for a wolf and saw how smart they are, how cunning they are, how athletic they are.
Yeah. If you want to increase your respect for wolves, go and chase them out on their landscape.
Hunters and ranchers and avid wolf watchers rarely see eye to eye, but they now agree on at least one thing.
We've got a gray.
Wolves are back in Yellowstone for good.
Oh my God, yes.
People love this. You know, we live in an artificial world. It's stores and cars and roads and buildings. Wolves are real, and people crave it. They love it. We almost have this thirst for something real now.